Looking at the number of permanent residents whose permanent residence visas were revoked, there were 2 in 2022, in 2023, and in 2024. Hello, I'm Rico. Today, I'm going to talk about the stricter permanent residency revocation system. The government is planning to start a new system from April 2027. And it looks like more people will have their permanent residency revoked than ever before. In this video, I'll be talking about these 5 themes. I'll be looking at data from the Immigration Bureau to see how many people currently have permanent residency in Japan and how many are being revoked each year. I'll also be looking at the reasons for revoking permanent residency under the current Immigration Control Act, and the new reasons for revocation that will be added from 2027, as well as the impact of having your permanent residency revoked, and for permanent residents who are surprised to hear, permanent residency revoked? I'll be talking about measures to protect your permanent residency. And for those of you who are aiming to obtain permanent residency in the future, I'll be talking about how to apply for permanent residency permission to avoid revocation. So please subscribe to my channel and click the like button. Please be sure to watch until the end. First, let me explain what permanent residency in Japan is. Among the many types of residence status available in Japan, it is a visa with no renewal review, which allows you to do any job, and has a high level of social credibility, making it one of the most favorable visas for foreigners. Let's take a look at how many permanent residents there are in Japan over the past 3 years. As of the end of 2022, there were 863,936 permanent residents, or 28% of all foreign residents. In 2023, there were 891,569 permanent residents, or 26% of all foreign residents. In 2024, there were 918,116 permanent residents, or 24% of all foreign residents. Currently, permanent residents account for the largest number of people among the 29 types of residence status available in Japan. Looking at the number of permanent residents whose permanent residence visas were revoked, there were 2 in 2022, 0 in 2023, and 4 in 2024. What do you think about these numbers? I would appreciate your comments. There are currently 3 main reasons for the revocation of permanent residency, so let's take a look at them. The first reason for revocation is when permanent residency was obtained through fraudulent means. It is later discovered that you submitted false documents, entered into a sham marriage, or concealed your past history in order to obtain permanent residency. Your permanent residency will be revoked no matter how many years have passed. The second reason for revocation is when an individual commits a serious crime and receives a custodial sentence exceeding 1 year, or engages in antisocial behavior. The third reason is if you failed to report your new address within 90 days after moving, or if you reported a false address. These 3 are the main reasons for revocation. Now, let's look at 2 points regarding the revised permanent residency revocation system. The first point of the revision is that non-payment of taxes and social insurance premiums will now be subject to revocation. Under current law, permanent residency is not revoked after acquisition, even if taxes, pension insurance premiums, or health insurance premiums are not paid, as there is no renewal review. But from April 2027, intentionally failing to pay taxes, pension insurance premiums, health insurance premiums, etc. will be added as grounds for revoking permanent residency. In other words, in serious cases where a person understands that they have an obligation to pay taxes and social insurance premiums, and in cases of malicious refusal to pay despite having no hardship due to illness, disaster, or unemployment, effective April 2027, this will be subject to visa cancellation. Furthermore, since the amended law does not appear to include any transitional provisions, non-payment prior to enforcement, that is, non-payment occurring before March 2027, may also be subject to cancellation. The second point of the revision is that, while not considered particularly malicious, individuals who fail to pay taxes or social insurance premiums will not have their permanent resident visas revoked. Instead, the Minister of Justice will exercise his authority to change their status of residence to a long-term stay visa. This mechanism constitutes a tiered penalty system. Permanent residency visas will be revoked, but the right to reside in Japan will not be revoked. In this case, it is anticipated that the examination will be conducted on the premise of changing to an appropriate status of residence, taking into account each foreign national's current status of residence and future intentions regarding their stay. Now, let's talk about the impact if your residence status is revoked. If your residence status is changed to a long-term resident visa or similar, you can remain in Japan even if you lose your permanent residency. But the visa renewal procedure will occur every few years. Furthermore, each time you renew your status, you must visit the Immigration Bureau to undergo an examination of your tax payment status and residency status. If you have dependents, their visas may also need to be changed accordingly. Also, with a long-term resident visa, there are no restrictions on the type of work you can do, but the conditions for inviting family members from overseas are stricter than when you had permanent residency. Furthermore, restoring a revoked permanent residency requires proving tax payment records, social insurance contribution records, and a good conduct record for the past several years, making this process take many years. For those of you who currently hold permanent residency, the most important thing is paying your taxes and social insurance premiums. Please ensure there are no delays or non-payments in all national and local taxes, such as resident tax, income tax, automobile tax, and inheritance tax, as well as all public contributions, such as pension and health insurance premiums. You can check at your local city hall or ward office, at a pension office, or online by accessing Nenki.net. If you think, I think there may have been a period when I didn't pay, don't ignore it under any circumstances. Immediately consult with the office and ask for a payment deferral or installment payment. In other words, make a payment plan in installments and start making payments today. It is important to demonstrate your intention to pay. Finally, I would like to address those of you aiming to obtain permanent residency. In light of the new cancellation system taking effect, we would like to share 3 key points for future permanent residency applications. First, regarding taxes and social insurance premiums, having 0 delinquencies will become the norm. Even after obtaining permanent residency, future payment delinquencies or non-payments pose a risk of revocation, so it is essential to be flawless from the application stage. If you have a history of delinquent payments, it is best to complete all payments for at least 3 years prior to applying and maintain a clean record. The second important point regarding permanent residency applications is that even after obtaining permanent residency, please remember that it can be revoked if you violate laws or regulations. In other words, maintaining a driving record free of violations from the application stage onward will become more important than ever. And the third important thing about applying for permanent residence is that there must be no lies in your application documents. Lies are discovered later. The risk of your application being revoked increases dramatically. The preparation process is extremely burdensome because collecting a substantial amount of documentation, such as proof of income, social insurance payment certificates, and family relationship certificates, is a difficult task in itself. However, if there are discrepancies or contradictions between the documents prepared for the permanent residence application, the history of visa applications since entering Japan, and the application documents to be prepared going forward, the risk of rejection increases significantly. For those considering applying for permanent residency, since nearly 10 years have passed since your entry into Japan, please verify your residency history going back to your date of entry. I've forgotten what happened 10 years ago. If you're thinking, I vaguely remember it, but I can't confirm because the documents aren't around, please register via line from the video description. We offer free visa consultations exclusively for registered users, so please take advantage of this service. Let's look back at what we talked about today. We have explained the trends in the number of permanent residents living in Japan over the past 3 years and the number of permanent residency revocations. There were 2 revocations in 2022, 0 in 2023, and 4 in 2024. Currently, permanent residency is revoked only in cases such as fraudulent acquisition or receiving a prison sentence exceeding 1 year. Since revocation requires departure from Japan, this becomes the sole option and an extremely difficult measure. However, under this amendment, failure to pay taxes or social insurance premiums in bad faith constitutes grounds for revocation. Granting deportation is too harsh, but granting permanent residency is also inappropriate. It is expected that such intermediate cases can also be addressed. The Minister of Justice will have the authority to change residency status to a long-term visa. While this does not result in the loss of the right to reside in Japan, it does revoke permanent residency, the most powerful residency status. This system aims to impose graduated sanctions. Furthermore, if your permanent residency is revoked and changed to a long-term stay visa, you will need to apply for renewal. During this process, your tax payment and social insurance contribution history will be reviewed. Therefore, if you currently hold permanent residency, please ensure you are fully compliant with your payment obligations. We explained to applicants for permanent residency the importance of document accuracy in light of the new revocation system. Today I gave a broad overview of the new permanent residency revocation system. The Immigration Bureau is scheduled to release guidelines, and we'll learn the details from them, so I'll be keeping an eye on developments. We'll also be covering new developments regarding visas and naturalization applications for foreigners beyond permanent residency visas, as well as various statistics and data related to foreigners. If you'd like to stay updated on this information, please subscribe to our channel. I hope this video was helpful to you. See you in the next video.